From Washington, this is VOA News. I'm Dave DeForest reporting Russia is blamed for a killing in London. A top British government investigator says Russian President Vladimir Putin probably approved the 2006 assassination of Alexander Litvinenko, a Russian spy-turned-dissident. Litvinenko was living in exile in Britain when he was poisoned with radioactive polonium. That killing was carried out at a London hotel by two Russian agents. Here is Prime Minister David Cameron.
We must now read the report in its entirety and take everything into account. But be in no doubt, this shocking event was reacted to years ago when it happened, and we're toughening our action again today.
3 items were high on the agenda Thursday when Secretary of State John Kerry held discussions in Switzerland on the situation in Syria. Those items were a political transition in Syria, a plight of Americans missing in Iraq, and the fight against Islamic State. Kerry's talks took place on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos. Falling oil prices have roiled world stock markets in the first weeks of 2016, but U.S. Treasury Chief Jack Lew says inexpensive oil is benefiting consumers across the globe. Thursday, Lew told the annual World Economic Forum that lower oil prices leave consumers with more money in their pockets. The World Health Organization said Thursday a second person has been tested as positive for Ebola in Sierra Leone, where an outbreak of the virus had been declared over in November. The first case was reported last week when Ebola was detected in the body of a young woman who became ill and died. A WHO spokeswoman says the woman's aunt has also tested positive. This is VOA News. A former senior commander in the Lord's Resistance Army, Dominic Ongwen, appeared before the International Criminal Court Thursday. Lisa Bryant reports.
The list of charges against ex-LRA Commander Dominic Ongwen is so long that presiding judge Kuno Tarfusser opted to summarize the 70 counts against him rather than having them read out. Asked whether he understood the charges, Ongwen, looking very focused and dressed in a sharp gray suit, responded positively. Ongwen faces charges of murder, rape, torture, forced marriage, and using child soldiers related to his alleged involvement in a string of LRA attacks against civilians in northern Uganda between 2002 and 2005. Lisa Bryant, Paris.
The British-based human rights group Amnesty International has strongly condemned Turkey's crackdown on Kurdish rebels. Dorian Jones reports.
Amnesty International's report accuses Turkish security forces of using reckless force with little disregard for civilian lives in military operations against the Kurdish rebel group, the PKK. Amnesty Turkey researcher Andrew Gardner says the situation is alarming.
What we've seen is people killed who clearly not fighters.
The Amnesty report condemned the widespread use of 24-hour curfews imposed across much of the predominantly Kurdish southeast. Amnesty's Gardner says the report calls the curfews collective punishment. Dorian Jones, Istanbul.
U.S. Defense Chief Ash Carter said Thursday 200 American commandos now in Iraq and Syria are carrying out raids on Islamic State targets. He spoke at a training school for French officers in Paris. Carter said there is a specialized expeditionary force in place that is preparing to work with the Iraqis to begin mounting raids.
For the defeat to be lasting in this way, it has to be achieved and sustained by local forces that are motivated and capable.
The Pentagon chief met Wednesday with his counterparts France, Britain, Germany, Australia, Italy, and the Netherlands to plot a strategy in their fight against the militants. The U.S. Defense Department says 2 detainees have been released from the U.S. detention center in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. The transfers reflect President Obama's desire to close the facility. Fires were raging out of control at one of the main oil facilities in northern Libya Thursday, that coming after militants hit storage tanks with rockets. British Prime Minister David Cameron says Thursday he is optimistic of securing an agreement to reform the European Union by February 17th. Such an agreement could secure Britain's future in the 28-nation bloc. From the VOA News Center in Washington, I'm Dave DeForest.
That's the latest world news from VOA.